Hey, what's up guys? Joker here, and today I need to talk to you about Mortal Kombat 11, which has been out for a couple of days now, but I've just got a few gripes with this game that I need to get off my chest because I have never refunded a game faster than I just have with Mortal Kombat 11. It is that bad. But first, today's video is brought to you by LevelGo.com, where you could save money on games for all of your favorite platforms, as well as software like Windows 10 Pro for under $16, Microsoft Office 2016 for $40, and Microsoft Office 2019 Professional Plus for under $80. And if you use my code PTL20 at checkout, you'll get 20% off of Windows 10 Pro, or you can use the code PTL15 to get 15% off of the entire website when you use the links down in the description below. Okay, so before we get into the negatives, let's just talk about a couple of the good things. So the game has a decent amount of graphics options that you can customize and adjust to be able to get the game running properly on your system, and there's also a built-in benchmark, which is always nice to see. Also, the tutorial for the game was pretty in-depth and very good if you do happen to be new to the franchise. I, for one, have been playing Mortal Kombat games ever since the first, way back on the Sega Genesis. I remember waiting in line overnight to get Mortal Kombat 2 because the game was selling out insanely quick, and I think I ended up spending like $100 on just the base game for Mortal Kombat 2 because things were a little bit different back then with how they would charge for games and stuff, and based on popularity, they would raise the prices at some game stores. I don't know if it was GameStop. I think it was maybe Funkoland at the time. But yeah, there's a couple of good things, as far as the combat is concerned. It's exactly what you would expect from previous games like Mortal Kombat 10 that NetherRealms have done. But yeah, apart from that, there are quite a few bad things about this game, and most of the complaints I have are about the performance of the game in terms of the frame rate, and also the microtransactions, which just make people want to avoid the extreme grind of this game if you want to do things like unlock characters and get other things, for playing in the game, especially in the online mode. So when it comes to the frame rate, the game is locked to 60 frames per second when you are actually in combat, which I don't have a huge problem with. I would obviously love to see an unlocked frame rate as I play on a 4K 144 hertz monitor. I would have loved to have been able to play at over 60 frames per second, but I get it in a fighting game, but on the other hand, the game's logic and physics are actually tied to the frame rate, which is not a good thing. That is absolutely horrible, and you can definitely feel it in the game if and when there are frame drops here or there. Now, I said that it's locked at 60 frames per second when you're actually fighting, which is good. However, it automatically goes down to 30 frames per second in things like the menus, cutscenes, and I would be generally okay with that. It's just cutscenes and the menus, but it goes beyond that. It's actually for all of the cinematic cutscenes as well, which happen in the middle of a fight. So if I were to do a fatal blow or fatalities, brutalities, anything like that, it grinds down to 30 frames per second. And with things like the fatal blows, this is kind of happening in the middle of the match. So you get this massive drop where you're sitting there at 60, and then all of a sudden you go into a cinematic, finisher or something like that, and it grinds down to 30 frames per second, and then needs to come back up to 60 FPS, and it just does not feel fluid at all. It's the most unfluid animations I've ever seen going between gameplay and a cutscene, which is not even a cutscene, it's right in the middle of the fight. There's no reason that this can't be 60 frames per second, and it just makes it feel awful. It's just not an enjoyable experience in any way whatsoever. On top of that, ultra-wide is supported in fights, thankfully, but it's not supported in the menus or in the crypt mode, so that is another issue right there. But really, the frame rate just feels awful, and especially if you are someone that's used to playing on 120, 144 hertz monitors, you are probably going to have some issues here, and it's like I said, it's beyond the aspect of the fact that the game is locked to 60 frames per second. I would generally be okay if the entire game, the cinematics and the fighting was all locked to 60 frames per second, but because of the way that they're seamlessly, and I say seamlessly with air quotes, the way that they're seamlessly integrated, it kind of makes it feel like the actual gameplay is dropping down to 30 frames per second as well, and it's not smooth at all. So outside of just the frame rate and performance issues that are involved With that, there are a couple other issues with the game as well. One most notably probably would be the microtransactions, which many of you have probably heard of now if you've been paying attention to this game at all. It basically makes people want to... the game is designed almost like a free mobile game where you are going to want to spend money on microtransactions to avoid the grind of the game and unlocking characters, and it's also not made abundantly clear throughout the menu systems what things can be unlocked through regular play, through like the story mode, like certain characters. One that I can most think of is Frost. You can unlock in the story mode, or you can get her in the if you want, or you can get her in through microtransactions by paying $6 if you want to avoid playing the story mode altogether. But it doesn't really make that very clear, so the microtransactions are mostly there to kind of avoid the grind. And I'm afraid, honestly, that the microtransactions are going to get worse. It's already got loot boxes. I mean, that should be a red flag right there. It's got a grind. It's got microtransactions to avoid it. It's got loot boxes, and all of this stuff is also tied in with multiplayer, competitive multiplayer, where maybe some characters are better than others, and you could pay for them. So I definitely feel like there is a slight pay-to-win aspect with Mortal Kombat 11, which just kind of sucks. Other things that I fear could get worse over time are some of the consumables in the game. Now, right now, there aren't any paid-for consumables in the game, but with things like the challenge towers, they actually have a very steep curve that really favors the AI in an immense amount, like way more than any other mode in the game. It favors the AI, and it just does not feel balanced in any way whatsoever, and kind of the only way that you could really tackle it is if you use consumables in the game, which are all tied to a random number generator, which I hate RNGs. And basically, it's not, like I said, it's not in the game right now, but I do fear that maybe at some point down the road that WB and NetherRealms might choose to make those consumables part of the pay-to-win aspects of this game. So at the end of the day, like I said, I refunded this game in 17 minutes off of Steam because of things like the frame rate, the microtransactions. I mean, for me, mostly it was the frame rate, but it has issues outside of just that if you're willing to look past the bad frame rate issues of this game. So yeah, there's some gameplay aspects of it, but then the microtransactions is a whole other thing. So I can't really recommend anyone get this game right now, and I just wanted to put this video out as a cautionary tale for anyone that's considering picking it up. If you do pick it up, I would say definitely buy it through Steam. Don't buy it through like a key site, even if you could save $15 or $20. It's not worth it because you might find yourself absolutely hating this game. And if you buy it through Steam, at least you have the opportunity to get a refund. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, guys. If you've played Mortal Kombat 11 and you let me know your experience down in the comments below if you agree or disagree with some of the things I happen to say in this video. I do look forward to hearing your thoughts and opinions as always. If you enjoyed this video or learned something new, don't forget to leave a thumbs up on it down below. Subscribe if you're not already, and if you've been here for a while, please consider ringing that notification bell, as it helps me out a lot, and you'll never miss a moment of content as soon as I post it up here live on the channel. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for another video. Ta-ra.